Talking with Ginny Engelhard, who is going to be sharing her experiences with working in the Senate. When did you start working in the Senate, and what was your prior experience?
I started working in January of 1975. I went to high school when they taught civics. I had a teacher that taught ancient history, so I knew nothing about civics. I didn't know what a senator was. I didn't know what a representative was. And he said, "Don't worry." He says, "You sure will learn." And believe me, I did.
Why did you first join the Senate?
I was looking for a full-time job, but after the insurance company folded, I was working, I believe the first 3 years I worked just during session, and when somebody would go on vacation, I would take over their duties.
What were your main duties in the Senate?
Duties really varied a lot. You did research, you did secretarial work, you did constituent work, which was if a constituent had a problem, you would try and go through the different agencies and try and get it solved for them. You sent out news releases to all of the newspapers in the senator's district. Sometimes you would go to committee meetings with him and take notes in the committee meetings.
What was the most memorable event that happened to you while you were in the Senate?
Probably the most memorable thing was 30 years ago when we had the vote on the first stadium bill.
Were there any other memorable events that you recall?
The one bill that I didn't like that came up every year was called the garbage bill. And anything that a senator or a House member wanted to get through the Senate and couldn't get through on his own, they threw it into what they call a garbage bill.
Did you meet any famous politicians, and if so, who were they and what was your opinion of them?
Well, I met Senator Nick Coleman. Probably the most memorable was one of my own senators. I worked for Senator Jim Ramstad in the Senate, but he was one of the few people that knew how to say thank you. He was a real joy to work for.
What was the atmosphere like at work usually?
There were two types of atmosphere. When I first started in 1975, everybody got along real well, but there was bipartisanship. The last probably 7-8 years that I was in the Senate, and I was there for 28 years, it got very, very partisan. Nobody wanted to give an inch, and that was very frustrating.
What kind of people did you work with?
The people I worked with were wonderful.
What was your most successful moment in the Senate?
The successful moment was after being there the number of years that I had, anytime a new secretary, as they were later called legislative assistants, would come to me because I knew everything that there was to know. Any questions they had, I could pretty well answer or tell them where to go to get the answers.
What kind of relationship did you have with a lot of your coworkers?
The relationship I had with all of my coworkers was very good.
How did the atmosphere change over time?
The atmosphere changed from being cordial to everybody to almost backstabbing. When one party wanted, the other one would fight against it. What the other party wanted, the opposite one would fight against it.
Overall, what was your most favorite thing about working there and your least favorite thing about working there?
My most favorite was working for a senator like Congressman Ramstad, that even though he worked you hard, he was easy to get along with, and he was very appreciative of everything you did. I did work for a few that if you were for a bill, they were for it. If you were against a bill, they were against it. And I had a little trouble with that.
Do you ever miss working there, and if so, what do you miss most about it?
I don't miss working there.
What were some of the jobs that you had as a teenager, and did they help you in your job as a Senate?
I would say probably the job that I had before going into the Senate, being a stewardess, was one of the greatest helps because I learned to work with people and to help people.
When did you retire?
I retired in January of 2003.
What is your lasting impression on working at the Senate?
My lasting impression is probably good. I think the good that I got out of it outweighs the bad.
Sounds like you had a great career there and like you really enjoyed your job. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and yes, I did enjoy it very much.